Thank you for joining us today. My name's Paul. I'm with ControlStore Australia. I work in the sales and marketing team. We're your local distributor and support partner for Tosibox solutions across Australia and New Zealand. Today's session is all about helping you choose the right Tosibox lock for your application. We'll be comparing the lock 175, 375 and 675. What's now, what's in the future, breaking down the key differences, typical use cases, and helping you understand which one best suits your project needs. If you've ever wondered what makes each lock different, when to use one over the other, how do you solve the edge, and what is the value of the Tosibox hardware, you're in the right place. We'll keep the session sharp and informative with the time at the end for Q&A. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat as we go. You should be able to use your microphones at the end too if I've set this up correctly. I'll hand over to Mark from Tosibox and we can get the show on the road.
Hey, excellent. Good morning, everybody. Paul, thanks for that. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining us on today's session. Paul, if I can ask you a favor, if you can just keep a little bit of a time marker and give us a 5-minute heads up, just so that we don't run too much over time for today's discussion. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us this morning. My name is Mark Dolchert. I'm the responsible head for Tosibox in the Asia Pacific region. So I look forward to sharing with you on today's session the value of what Tosibox delivers on the edge, primarily with its hardware, however, not limited to. So when we look at this, we're looking at the hardware edge devices, but we have software versions as well in relation to things like Docker containers. So if you are looking for something beyond what we present on today's discussion, please reach out to us and let's have a little bit more of an intimate discussion on that. Okay, so we're going to look today around the topic solving the edge. And I think when I put that topic together, it's really around the complexities that goes on in the edge environment and the fastest way to execute that without exposing organizations to risk, without exposing yourselves to risk. And I think one of the biggest things we see in the Australian market is the SOC Act, which is something that's becoming more and more relevant in today's environment. We have it on a more regular basis with clients that phone us with a little bit of shell shock to say, we've just had a harsh conversation around the SOC Act. We've got this huge list of compliances that we need to have a look into. And from a Tosibox perspective, you're able to come through to us and we're able to tick off those boxes as we go along by using the standard components of Tosibox. So again, if you're exposed to that, engage with us and let's show you how easy it is to resolve. So in today's discussion, Tosibox as the fastest way to get your OT network and physical infrastructure, whether it's a full network or just a single device, connected, protected, and under control from any location. Okay, so when we have a look, and I'm just going to set the scene and ease into this before we go into the hardware side of things. When we have a look at OT complexities and challenges, they are distinct from IT. So there is a differentiator. Inherent vulnerabilities sit with legacy systems. They were never designed for this type of use and environment. Lack of basic security. So you can see that more than 60% of systems have a lack of basic security. Decade-old equipment and unpatched vulnerabilities. How many people are still using Windows XP as an operating systems on machines within this environment? So that exposes organizations to a whole lot of challenges. On the other side, you've got the operational constraint. So heterogeneous networks, and to be honest, I had to go and search heterogeneous networks purely because, yeah, that's a big word, but basically the term means different types of networks. within specialized protocols. So we're dealing with the backnets, the Modbus TCPs, the Ethernet IPs, and all these different types of protocols. And how does that come together within the constraints and the complexities? And then I think a big one for building automation, BMS, BAS, whatever you want to look at it, siloed approaches. Everyone's coming in doing their focus. Mechanics are coming in on the HVAC side. Lighting's coming in and doing their thing. Controls are doing their thing. EMS is doing their thing. And at what point does it come together? And I think most definitely on today's discussion, when you have a look at features now within the 600 series around VLAN management, through a single device, you're able to bring it together into a single secure architecture and eliminate all those vulnerabilities, but still focusing on that same simplicity that Tosibox has always promoted in their environment. And then operational constraint, last one, remote and harsh environments, which limits security operations. So it could be pumping stations, or it could be going out into an environment where there's no internet connection and using solutions like Starlink. Your process and approach to that shouldn't be any different between those two, and Tosibox has standardized how you do that. The end line is 74% of OT organizations experience malware and intrusions over the last year, okay, through those unpatched and vulnerability systems. So whether it's software, whether it's port forwarding, or whatever it may be, that classifies that 74%. So that's a big number. So that means 3/4 of what we're doing on an annual basis is exposed to net risk. And this is where we look to assist you in saying, not only can we solve that for you, we can also simplify and actually enhance your business towards a better return on investment, better efficiencies and everything that goes with it at the same time. Today's landscape, it's looking at the right tools, okay? And I don't think they've been more critical than they are in today's environment. We're under the knife from a point of view of cyber attacks. They're becoming more and more regular. I know from last year's Forescout, things got 8% worse. So going into traditional environments and using enterprise VPNs, and I use the term enterprise VPNs because there is a difference in the different types of VPN technologies, and also to highlight a VPN on its own is not a security appliance. It's just one of a bunch of technologies that are needed in order to keep the clients, keep yourself safe and secure. So where we look at traditional solutions, we look at VPN solutions, we look at the DIY approach. So that's configuring VPN on a standard router as an application. These are all solutions that are consistently failing over. And to provide a comprehensive central environment in order to be able to manage and optimize all of this is important. So this leaves a number of critical gaps, prompting the need for and I highlight here, a purpose-built solution for OT networks. So Tosibox was not something that existed previously in another world and has been adapted. So square peg into a round hole scenario in order to try and suit the environment. We were built for the environment, okay? So when we have a look at the needs of organizations, they require solutions that deliver turnkey connectivity that is protection purpose built, and it's done out the box. So by doing that out the box, you've got the ability to do rapid deployments, consolidate and control multiple assets in different locations, and have a balance of security and efficiencies. So where I talk about that security and efficiencies balance, that's where things like our automated processes come in. So why do you want to spend time getting caught up in managing technology when the technology could be doing it for you? Tosibox promotes itself as the fastest way to get your OT network connected And we do that because we have streamlined and automated a manner on deploying, connecting, okay, protecting, and getting all of that under control. So that means there's no heavy configuration of the edge device that we're going to go through. And I'll show you a little bit around for those on the call today that have not worked with Tosibox before, or for those on the call that have Tosibox used in the organization, but have never ever worked with our interfaces and devices. I'll show you a little bit more on how easy that is. And through that ease of use, we've got 2 or 3 areas that need information, and that's it done. And in the whole process, you're not having to worry about configuring tunnels. You're not having to worry about following the bouncy ball to where it's got to go on the other end. You're not having to worry about, have I configured the security parameters correctly for firewalls, users, and all these other things that are built into the technology stack. By using the technology, all of that's done for you. So that gives you the ability to do rapid deployment and centralized control once done. It's got comprehensive visibility with minimal exposure. So that means we're giving you full access to the LAN side devices without having to worry about port forwarding or all these other exposure points that are existing. And then we highlight on the robust security that simplifies compliance. So we're not sitting and looking at individual factors on zero trust network access, firewalls, encryption and tunneling, and all these different things that seem to be highlighted on as individual components. We've got that all into a single technology stack, okay? And when you have a look at the cost of ownership from Tosibox on that complete technology stack, we highlight on unmatched economic benefits. So you can have a look at it from a value-driven side on that rapid deployment, or you can just have a look at it from a commercial side on what all those different technologies would cost in their individual spaces, add them into a single solution, and Tosibox looks a hell of a lot more attractive when you start doing the numbers. So let's get a little bit more into the lineup. So Tosibox over the years has had a couple different models. At one stage, there were almost too many models in the range doing a lot of similar things. So in 2025, we decided to simplify that lineup. We reduced out a couple models. We've had some price adjustments to suit the markets and price adjustments downwards in some cases. And through that, we've created 3 levels of product categories depending on the use and the environment. So when we have a look at these, and I'll get into some more detail now, but when we have a look at them, we've basically got an entry-level range with the 100 series. Then we've got a more mid-level range with the 300 series. And then we've got an advanced range, okay, with the 600 series. And the importance to highlight on all of these is one of the highlight areas we've done is simplicity through user interface. So none of these models have a different interface for the different users. It's the same interface. Some of the features within the interface change. Otherwise, the UI remains the same across all of these different ranges. And the value of that, again, is you shouldn't have to go and try and figure out how it works now because you're using a different model. You should feel comfortable with the software and environment you're coming into with the knowing ability that, oh, hold on a second, one product doesn't have Wi-Fi, the next one doesn't have 4G. Outside of that, everything else is the same. So we keep it as a standardized approach for our users into that environment, again, simplifying the way people use Tosibox. So having a look now into the different models, different features, different functions. So from top to bottom, left to right, we started with the entry-level series with the Tosibox 175. So that's our most cost-effective entry-level, has the base of everything. So when I say it has the base of everything, you're covered with WAN, you're covered with a single LAN port, you're covered with 4G as well as Wi-Fi, okay? all in a single low-cost device. This device then gives you the ability to build out onto a single IP range and subnet. So if you're going into an environment and you're an HVAC contractor or an OEM of HVAC units, or someone that's only looking at a single site asset, that's more than likely the device for you. It meets the price point, it's giving you access, and you're good to go. However, some organizations that have used the 175 have seen certain pitfalls and challenges. We've had clients wanting more around additional Ethernet ports. We've had clients wanting more around or using external antennas onto the 175. And when you start having a look at all these components and how clients are solving that, so the additional Ethernet ports, there's then a 4-port unmanaged switch brought into the equation. There's external antennas brought into the equation. And then last but not least, on the 175, a lot of clients come back with it takes up a bit too much space in DIN rail applications because of the way they're mounting it. So that's already where you see the advantage of migrating from the 175 across to the 375, for example, as a model. So then you're not having to worry about additional hardware in the panel with a Ethernet switch. You're not having to worry about external antennas that need to be procured over and above. And you've got the additional value of a small footprint. It's the smallest footprint out of all of our devices, the 300 series. So it slots nicely into a panel. You might be going into existing panels that are already quite densely populated and just looking for that space to try fit it in. So then the 300 series is definitely going to be your unit there. And then as you'll see from the 375, it comes with external antennas, so you're not having to buy it as an additional component. And then you've got additional features on it like the USB port on the device, so which allows you as an admin user to do the physical first multi-factor authentication with Tosibox. So that's putting the physical USB key into the device as opposed to remote matching on the 175. And it also has some features around digital I/O. So now you can start working in things like temperatures, alarming, and all these other functions. Or it could be one where you've got a high-end client that only wants to allow access when they allow it, which allows you to trigger the VPN access. So there's lots of features with that you can use in that environment. Outside of that, when we have a look at the throughput speed, both the 100 and the 300 series cover the same 10 megabit throughput, which in a lot of applications, especially building automation, is more than suffice for the daily needs. Whether you're building remote access applications or whether you're building infrastructure back to a central point. And I think at that stage, only when you're needing a larger bandwidth. So what are the things that influence larger bandwidth? Large networks. So when I say large networks, when you've got multiple different VLANs that you're connecting back to a central point in that siloed approach that I spoke about. Or alternatively, where you're combining access control, CCTV camera, and other data-hungry applications, that's where it's suggested to then start having a look at the higher throughput devices on the 600 series. No matter whether you're using 100, 300, or 600, again, to reiterate, the user interface has the same look and feel. I'll show you more on what that looks like now. So then going on to the 600 series, unlike the 300 series where the 350 has that Wi-Fi connection with the WAN and LAN connections, on the 600 series we decided to just have a device that gives you that start of that gigabit LAN port, that start of that 70 megabit throughput in its basic form. So coming in with a device that allows you to use existing internet connections. It could be your own WAN connection, or it could be the client's enterprise IT connection providing an internet connection. At that point, you're not exposing yourself or the client to any risks. You're using the enterprise IT side of the infrastructure as an internet connection to build the infrastructure for Tosibox. And it has no effect on the enterprise side. There's no transparency through enterprise into the OT side, because keeping in mind, all of these devices create segmentation. So again, it's one of those automated devices that not only are we doing the firewall in this and the access control and the zero trust network access and the tunneling encryption, but we've also got the segmentation built in there. So it allows you to then keep this secure from anything else on the network. And then obviously, once you've plugged in the WAN side for internet connection, you can start building out your LAN side devices. Going from the 610 to the 675, you've got additional functions with the advantages of both Wi-Fi and dual SIM 4G. So clients ask us, 375, 675, and they start having a look at the hardware differences between those two. And I think one of the biggest focuses around there is the dual SIM functionality. So giving the ability to have redundancy with more than one service provider within the 4G environment. I know we go into applications, and I had one the other day. There was no signal on the 4G because it had a Telstra SIM card in, and we've seen of late what Telstra's been through with smudging their numbers a little bit on signal coverage. End result on it was one of the people was standing there and they're going, oh, I've got coverage with Optus. So it gives you the ability to take the guesswork out of that, and you can actually use two different SIM cards in that environment if you're not knowing what's going on. Or it could be that there's a little bit of variable and you need to just have the redundancy that you're covered with both. In a device like the 675, you've actually got 4 different points of failure. So you've got the WAN connection, you've got the Wi-Fi connection, and you've got 2 dual SIM connections. And you can create redundancies with all of those in order to support your infrastructure. Same 70 megabit throughput connection as the 610. So everything else pretty much remains the same there. And then last but not least, going on to the 695. The 695 is exactly the same as the 675. Except the only difference is we're now going on to 5G as a connection. So instead of having 4G modems and it toppling out at the 4G side, you've got the ability to connect via 5G, and you've still got the backward compatibility that you can go downwards onto 4G if you need to. So what that device is doing is it's future-proofing you from a point of view of 5G might be coming up in the environment that you're using it in. 5G might be something that you want to say, well, okay, in a year's time, it's going to be more relevant. So let's invest in the hardware that future-proofs us for that. It's purely up to you on it. So now having a look at the user interface. So this is a snapshot of a user interface. This specific user interface was from a Lock 500, saying that the 300 series shares the same user interface. So again, you can see the value add. And you can now start seeing a couple different areas on different information for those that have used Tosibox in the past. You might go, oh, it looks a little bit different. For those that haven't used Tosibox in the past, this is a user interface that's common to all of our products. You'll notice on the top right-hand side, I'm logged into the user interface. What's the importance of that? If you're not logged into the user interface and as a sub-user, you access this environment through your access credentials, you do not have access to administrate or make any changes to this user interface. You would still need to log in on the top right-hand side and have the specific password given to this box. So that allows another layer of security that people can't just come in and make changes. There's no basic default admin area on this. Because we're a security appliance, you have to have the physical password to log into it. And that allows you to then make changes. Once those changes are made, if we do firmware upgrades in the future, it affects nothing on the changes. So down the left-hand side, we have a status block. And that status box basically gives you all the information around what's going on, connected to the back-end infrastructure of Tosibox, what type of internet connection we're using with wireless LAN in this case. It brings through the credentials of the internet connection and IP without having to do any setting changes. So one of the advantages of Tosibox is no fixed IP required and no physical information that needs to be put in there apart from connecting it to the environment. So like what we would do with typical SSID and password, the same in the Tosibox world, and we build the infrastructure and connection out from there. So that allows you to use any type of internet connection on our devices in order to do this. Then as we go down, we've got a highlight on a mode, and this specific device is in what we call lock mode. Now, lock mode is a standard for Tosibox in how we build out our infrastructure, and that means that our device comes on and it is passive in the network environment, although we're giving it an IP address for that network. It remains passive and has no effect and cannot be seen on the network. If you wanted to have it in a mode that it was seen on the network as an active device, then you would change it into client mode. And what that basically does is the Tosibox then becomes a device on the network. It uses the same network internet connection and can give you access to all the other components in a more enterprise IT style, as opposed to doing the segmentation and only seeing the LAN side beyond that. If anyone's interested in understanding the value of those two in their application, again, I suggest that we just have a little bit of a one-on-one and I can show you the difference, and we have a specific presentation related to that. If you're interested on a quick search, go to our website, go into the knowledge base and just search lock or client mode. Then you'll notice software version. Current software on most of our models sits at 5.6.0 at the moment, which is the latest that was launched. It was about a month ago. We do have software releases for these models coming out quarterly. So that means we've got new features, new bug fixes, and everything else going on to keep you secure, as well as to keep you optimized, okay, with our user interface. And in most cases, because it's automated, you wouldn't even be aware of it. So that's where advantages like our Tosi control visual layer comes in, that allows you to understand your complete fleet. It runs a list of all your devices and it tells you exactly what the firmware versions are. So if there's a device that's got a bit of a spotty internet connection or struggling to update for one other reason, or that device has been set as a manual update, Tosi Control will notify you of that, and then you know you've got to manually go into there. Otherwise, for the most part of your fleet, it's just automated and happens in the background. Then on the left-hand side there, we've got the highlight around Ethernet ports. So obviously in the 175, with it only having a single Ethernet port, that software does not have this feature. As soon as you're going onto multiple LAN ports on our hardware devices, we have the ability to have these highlighted as green or red. So you can see in this case, the WAN port is showing as not connected because this device is connected via wireless LAN. So that means that there's no physical hardware connection on this device because it's using the Wi-Fi in order to connect the device. However, there is 3 LAN connections for the total network that's being connected. So that means they're using LAN 1, 2, and 3 for the devices on the right-hand side to connect into this environment. If we didn't want the client or anyone to use those ports, we are able to go in, and I'll show that to you just now, and disable those LAN ports. So if you want to further enhance the physical security side of things, that people aren't just coming in and plugging in to want to get an internet connection, you can disable the ports that they can plug in and that they won't be able to do anything on that. And then as we go further down the line, we can see under there LAN, that IP shown there is the IP that we're typically giving the box to identify what LAN side IP range we're looking for. So you'll see that LAN IP of that 10.2.21.1 matches all our devices on the right-hand side here. We've got 10.2.21.58, 40, 11, 12, 20, 30, and 13. So those are all the different devices that then exist on the LAN OT network. Then we highlight on the subnet mask. We've got a feature there around DHCP server. So a lot of questions we often have on the DHCP server is people say, hold on a second, but we use fixed IP in OT networks. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And that's why below that, we've got the static IP range. However, one of the big value adds for the Tosibox is the ability to do layer 2 connections, BACnet, Siemens, and all these challenges where layer 2 is a challenge for most organizations. We do it seamlessly. And we're able to do it without the need for worrying about networking or IT specialists. So what that DHCP range or server does is it allocates a range of IP addresses that allows us to automate that layer 2 network for issuing those bridged IP connections. If you're not too familiar with networking, don't worry about it. You've just got the ability to go in and select layer 2 bridged. And as long as that DHCP server is on, the technology will do it for you. The reason why I mention this is we have people switching that off because they think that DHCP is not needed. And then they're trying to do a layer 2 connection. And unfortunately, it won't work and it will ask you to then put in an IP. Whereas if that DHCP is on, it will automatically just follow the process. So then going into the right-hand side with the white part of your screen, you'll notice Tosibox devices. It gives you your specific Tosibox model number and MAC address you're using. Below that, it gives you all the highlighted users. So these are all the people that have got access to this environment. And sorry, I've blanked out on Adam because of confidentiality, but all these Adams are different Adams in the environment and can be anyone that you associate it to. Also, what I'm seeing here is the green block is me as a master key connected to this environment. You can also see there is an additional master or backup in that environment with the same icon, but it's in red. So that means that that user is not connected. And then you'll notice above that, the icon changes. So you're familiar with the fact that we have a USB crypto key, but we also have a software user option. And that icon just identifies the software user option. So these are all the users that have zero trust network access to the architecture, as well as this device in the architecture. And obviously that's managed through their access rights. And then coming in, these users have the ability within the access rights to be able to get granted access to this complete ecosystem. Or alternatively, we might have Andy second from the bottom there, and Andy is only allowed to have access to that bottom device there. So by configuring it in the user rights, Andy can come into this architecture and not see the complete network of devices, only see the last device in that network. So again, it starts defining the difference between enterprise VPNs, for instance, and how Tosibox does it from a granular level of that zero trust network access to only the specifics relevant to the user. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey through an actual device, and I'm going to show you a typical scenario on how we set up a Tosibox, that rapid deployment again, to give you an understanding of how quick and easy it is for those that haven't used it before. So pop up on the screen right now is the typical user interface for Tosibox devices. So this allows you from a single pane of glass to add on as many different sites as you want. You'll see the sites here that are in red are devices that are authenticated that I'm allowed to see and connect to. They are currently not accessible, either don't have power or not online. The devices in orange are devices that are online and authorized in my architecture, but I'm not physically connected to it. So it means that I'm able to connect to it, but I haven't got a connection with it at the moment. It's waiting for me to connect to it. So that's where our backend infrastructure comes in to just make the magic happen, to allow you to be able to access these devices with never having to worry about what type of IT infrastructure am I on, what type of internet connection am I using, have I got the right IP? It's irrelevant. Okay, and the only time you as a user need to worry about using IPs with Tosibox from a user console perspective. So when you're doing engineering work and when you're doing layer 2 connections for things like flash firmware and drives and that type of stuff. Outside of that, if you're just coming into the Tosibox world to view UIs and devices, there's no need to be changed on your machine side, and you're able to then just connect to these devices. So above, we've now got a device that's in green, and that's a device that I'm currently connected to. So when I go into this, and by the way, it's not something that I've had to build up in a long and lengthy process. It's something that I've put my user key in. I've got to this point in seconds. I've clicked connect on the right-hand side. It spools through. It does the authentication. It does all the security parameters on the trust and everything that's going on, and I'm connected. So that's literally a 10 or 15 second exercise. At that point, I'm then connecting into my user interface. And if I log out quickly and just log back in again, so you'll notice I'm logged out here. There's no features and functions at the top. So at this stage, anyone coming in that has access to this UI, okay, only has access to the basic parameters around the visual, seeing everything that's going on. They cannot access or change anything from a point of view of the parameters and configurations on the network. In order to do that, top right-hand side, log in, unique password. So this is something that every single device that comes out of the Tosibox factory has a unique password on the back of that device. That is used for the first time, and that is used when the device has a full factory reset as the base password. We don't use admin passwords of admin123 or whatever it may be that a lot of organizations use, because in a lot of cases, those passwords never get changed. So how many times have you been onto an OEM device? You can search on the internet what the factory password is. Because it's the same across all devices, you put it in, 90% of the time it's that password. In the Tosibox world, unique password on the back of the box. Once you've used that for the first time, it actually forces you to put in your own unique password. So I urge you to think about password parameters in your organizations and to create a bit of a business policy, an IT policy around password management, because it is an important part and it should be something that's kept separate and managed. Once that's done, we're able to then log into it. And you'll notice as soon as we log in, we've now got the settings field and the network field. So this is where then the admin side comes in, and we're able to start accessing these different areas and making changes to them. So now in the Tosibox world, the most important thing as step one is, in order for our infrastructure to work, we need to use it on an internet connection. So we need to provide an internet connection with Tosibox technology. Once that internet connection is provided, you'll notice on the top left-hand side, it'll tell you the internet is okay. And it'll also tell you that it's connected to our back-end infrastructure. So that
Mark,
is
I'll just
important.
give you 5 minutes, mate.
Excellent, thank you. So that is important to know that the device is able to understand who are the zero trust users and pull everything from the index table on the back-end infrastructure to facilitate the magic in those connections. I've got a WAN port connection, and carrying on through the whole environment, as we spoke about before, I'm now down to my Ethernet port side. In this case, my WAN is connected. I've got nothing connected on the LAN side, and I've actually got a LAN connection disabled. Okay, so now I've given it an internet connection. Now I need to go and say, well, okay, how do I assign the LAN side? For that, I'm going into network, and on the 175, you only have one parameter for this. So you only have a LAN parameter for this, and that LAN parameter allows you to then configure a single connection. So you will have basically all of this, okay, as your connection for the 175, and that's it. On the 375 and the 675, you've got the ability to start managing. So when I say 375, 675, 300 series, 600 series, you've got the ability to start managing these. So that allows you to go and say, well, okay, I'm going to enable port 3 as well, so I can use all 3 connections, and you can see there it is, that's enabled. If I go back into status now, it tells me that all of them are enabled, but disconnected. If I now want to go and say, okay, great, I'm plugged in on LAN 1, I now need to select my IP for that. So I need to give it a IP address to match the network on the OT side I'm connecting to. I would then go into the LAN side of things. And at this point on the 300 series, you're only going to have this first line that's highlighted on at the moment. All of these other lines are not going to exist. So on this first line, you're basically going to go edit, and you're going to fill in the parameters. You can give it a name. You can give it some tagging if you want. Because, again, we work on the static IP, you're going to give it an IP address. And basically, that IP address is any IP that is spare on the LAN side network. So you can give it whatever you want, and you're good to go. So you can plug in 192.168 or whatever it may be. The only thing I highlight on is if you're using the 192.168 range, please don't use .1.1. And the reason for that is every single router that exists in the world comes out as a base of .1.1. So if you're trying to use a WAN connection with an external router and the Tosibox, you're going to have an IP conflict, and then it's a challenge to get that sorted out because you've got to separate the two in order to fix that. So try not to use that 1.1. Once you've clicked save, done, you're good to go. The device will reboot itself to take on that IP address, and that IP address will then exist within that environment. And obviously in the 300 series, you've then got your LAN 1 configured, and you're good to go. Now, if you're needing more than one LAN connection, so let's talk now about that siloed approach. You're a system integrator, you're coming into an environment where the client's got 6 or 7 different siloed VLAN networks, and you're wanting to access all of those to now start hardening the site and providing out access to other vendors, or to work with the customer towards creating a proper cyber posture. At this point in the 600 series, you're now able to start doing that. So that's where you're able, in the LAN side of things, to start creating multiple different VLANs. So in the latest 675 software, this gives you the ability to create up to 128 VLAN connections in this environment. So that means you can run up to LAN 128 in your environment and connect as many different ranges and devices as what are you needing to do down there. It's not limited to an IP range or subnet, so you can start plugging that in your environment. You can start doing layer 3 connections on the one side, layer 2 connections on the other side. You can build it out to specific ports in the environment, or you can make it specific to all of the ports or just one of the ports, depending on whether you want it physically wired in a certain way or not. You can allow your VLAN tagging and everything that you need to do around setting up these connections. So now you can start seeing, when we have a look at the difference between these different devices, you can start seeing how you're starting to build out on the value chain depending on the application that you're dealing in. The last thing just to make on a statement, so for any users that are thinking about using the 300 series or using the 300 series, that VLAN management will come to the 300 series later on this year. So we've launched it on the 600 series as the first point. And we will be bringing that software across to the 300 series later on this year. So if you bought a device already, you will get that as part of the upgrades and updates in the future. So again, not going into environment where you put a DIY solution in and it's only as good as the last update and configuration. We're doing all this for you in the background. We're working on new features and functions to give you more deliverables and more features to your clients or your teams internally. So now going into the closing out points on this presentation, with Tosibox's economics, we have a look at highlighting on the benefits for clients that it's not just around the cost of what you're paying for that device, it's the value that's delivered. And by having a look at that total cost of ownership, we've also got to bring in things like streamlining operations. We've got to bring in things like reduction on downtime. We've got to bring in things like minimizing the need for specialized expertise, having to pay someone a fortune of money just to manage this network. We've got to have a look at the rapid deployment. So having a look at return on investment. In some cases, we've seen it as low as 12 months. That beats industries like the PV industry and other markets on return on investment. So these are all things that we need to make relative. And then the big thing is cost saving. So especially for those that are in a service-driven environment, we're creatures of habit. So we tend to do the same thing we did yesterday and the day before. And start thinking about how you can reduce your cost of ownership to your clients by reducing travel time, 40 to 60%, resolving 90% of the issues remotely. So that allows you to do more with less. Okay, so these are all substantial cost savings that you don't necessarily see in the initial buy of Tosibox, but is showing value in your organization. So from my side, I'd like to thank you very much for today's presentation. I hope it was of value, and I urge anyone that's looking for more or needs a little bit more detail to reach out to the ControlStore team. Let's schedule an individual session and talk about your individual needs and how we can be of assistance. So from my side, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. We haven't got any questions in the chat at the minute. We'll leave it for a minute and see if we've got any questions that come in from the floor.
Well, hopefully I've covered it all and left everyone not wanting for more.
There you go. Oh, perfect. Nobody typing away. That's good. All right. So thanks again for joining us today. We hope the session helped clarify the differences between the Tosibox Locks models and the differentiators, what makes Tosibox unique, and gave you a clearer picture of what model is right for your projects. It's always beneficial too to see how the Tosibox UI works, showcasing simplicity in each step of the process. If you'd like to discuss your specific applications, need support with deployment, or would like to place orders, please feel free to reach out to our team directly. You can contact us on 1300 655 952. Email us at sales@controlstore.com.au. More info is always available at our website, www.controlstore.com.au. We'll also be sending a quick follow-up with the recording, so keep an eye on your inbox in the coming hours. Thanks again for your time, and we really look forward to supporting you with your future Tosibox deployments. Thank you for making the time for us this morning. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to speaking to you all soon.